Hello, my name is Emma and I am a cruise ship entertainer. So why did I choose my job? I chose my job because I have been singing and dancing ever since I was very small, going to theatre schools and being in production shows and taking drama and music at school. And from a very early age, I knew that that's what I wanted to do as a career. So I pursued it. I learned how I had singing lessons, dance lessons, all different things like that, which would enable me to use my passion and my love as a way to earn money as I grow up. So an average day on board a cruise ship can really vary from day to day. The job that I did involved entertaining the guests all through the daytime and through the evenings as well. So our day would start in the morning around 9 or 10 o'clock. The day would be filled with such activities like trivias. We'd be teaching dance classes, things like salsa, samba, cha-cha, waltz. We'd also do lots of game shows that involved all of the family. So family groups would come along, we'd give them different challenges, lots of fun activities to do. And then through to the evening, we would then move on to hosting acts that came onto the ship, so bringing them on and off stage. We would do game shows in the evening that were a little bit more like television style. So we would have a set that we would dress the room with, whether that be sofas or backdrops and screens for the guests to look at. And that would be more of what we did in the evening. So on board a cruise ship, the working conditions are very different to anywhere else that you can work, because you're on a ship, which is already unusual. However, that does mean that there are a lot of things that could put some people off working on cruise ships. For example, you're living and working in the same environment. You go to bed on the cruise ship, you wake up, you go to work, and then you're staying on that cruise ship all day, especially if it's a sea day. Obviously, the cruise ship will pull into port on a regular basis, which then means that you do get to enjoy the countries that you're visiting. You tend to take it in terms within in your team to swap and enjoy the day and enjoy the port while the others stay on and entertain the guests that have remained on board. That does mean that you get to see the world completely free of charge whilst getting paid to do so, which is a pretty good bargain. But there are some costs as well. You are living in a cabin which can be shared. Sometimes you are very lucky to be by yourself in a cabin, but more often than not, then you will be asked to share your cabin with somebody else. So that means that you're in a confined space, smaller beds, bunk beds, and sharing a bathroom, obviously, as part of that. However, the pros really do outweigh the cons. You are working with people from all different nationalities, all different backgrounds, meeting loads of new people, whether that be with the guests or with your team. And the conditions are really like nothing you've ever experienced before in any other job. So to get my job on board cruise ships, I was already working within the hospitality industry in holiday parks in the UK. And I knew that cruise ships was something I aspired to do because I had a need for travel and I also wanted to be paid to do it. So I scoured the internet for positions available and job applications, and I applied to many different ones, lots and lots of times, and got rejected quite a few times. However, the one that I was successful with, I found on a website founded by Stage Magazine, which if you're in the arts industry is a familiar website to you. They post adverts for jobs and auditions in there quite frequently. So I replied to that, sent my CV off and a cover letter, to which I was asked for a phone interview, which at the time was with a lady in the British head office. I also had to record myself, much like I'm doing now, to speak to a camera and answer lots of questions about myself before the initial interview as well. Once I got past that interview stage, they then asked me to get some references, and I had to then complete another phone interview, but this time with a lady in the head office in America. After that, I was very lucky to be offered the position, and there was a lot to sort after that before I got offered a contract. I had to get visas, I had to get my passport checked, I had to have a medical examination, and there was a lot to sort. And they often said to me, please don't think you'll be going straight away, because there can be a lot of time needed to organise all of these important documents. However, the time it took me from being offered the position to signing my first contract was about 3 months. So I was very lucky. So in order to be a cruise ship entertainer, there are quite a few skills that you need. I would say one of the biggest ones is to be a people person. Especially in the team that I was, our job is to befriend every single guest and to make them feel like they have had the best experience they possibly can whilst on board with us. A lot of my job was spent what we call PRing, where I would wander around the ship, stop in the bars, see who's having a drink, who's having a chat, who is just in between areas having a little conversation. I'd plonk myself down, say, hi, I'm Emma, how are you today? Which a lot of people might go, can't do that. But it is something that I find quite natural. And as you can see, I'm very good at talking and can make a lot of small talk with people. So I think being a people person is very important when on cruise ships. The best parts about working on a cruise ship, well, there is one really obvious one, and that is traveling the world. I have been lucky enough. I worked for 2 years, which means 4 contracts, because they're all 6 months at a time. And then you get 2 months break. And I have been lucky enough to travel over 20 different countries in 2 years, which is something that even when I say out loud really takes me back. And I'm really astounded that I managed to do such a wonderful thing. I visited wonders of the world. I went to countries I wouldn't have even imagined going to. Quite often it'd be the night before that I realise, oh my goodness, I'm going to Russia tomorrow, which is something that in my wildest dreams I never thought I'd be able to do. So the biggest positive with working on cruise ships is being able to see the world. So of course, with a job comes highs and lows, and there are certain bits that you might not enjoy. The biggest one for me was not being able to go home at the end of the day. You finished a long day. Sometimes they can be 12 hours long if it's turnaround day and you're starting to disembark the guests at 7 o'clock in the morning and you haven't gone to bed until 11 o'clock that same night. You can't just shut the door, get in your car and drive home. You have to walk down a corridor and into your cabin 30 seconds from where you've been working all day, which can be tough. It can also mean that sometimes you feel like there's no escape. You're always around guests, you're always around the same people, and you're always on the go. There is not a moment of time where you don't feel like you're working, which when you're away for 6 months, away from your family, away from your friends, can be difficult. The other thing that I found hard was communicating with home. Quite often you're in different countries with different time zones, which can mean phone calls, video calls. They can be really difficult. Add to that the fact that you're in the middle of the ocean and the Wi-Fi isn't fantastic. And that makes communicating with home a lot harder. I think if you're somebody who's prone to homesickness, cruise ship life can be very difficult. And so you have to be the sort of person who's quite independent, quite able to, survive on their own, and somebody who doesn't get homesick easily. But those are 2 massive factors of things that I know people really struggle with when on board cruise ships. So my future hopes working on a cruise ship. Well, first of all, since COVID happened, cruise ships have ground to a halt. They are all moored out in the ocean, empty vessels, no guests and no crew on board them. So my main future hope is that they get up and running very, very soon, because the world misses them. Not just the crew, but there's numerous guests who I've spoken to who cannot wait to book their next vacation and get out on that ship again and get back to sea. Myself included, I miss it dearly, and it doesn't feel right knowing that there are these wonderful ships costing billions of pounds just sat floating, doing absolutely nothing. It breaks my heart. And there are so many crew members who aren't as fortunate as I am, who might be finding life very difficult at the moment. So my first future hope is that cruise ships get up and running. Secondly, on a more selfish level, my future hopes is to be promoted. At the moment, I am what is referred to as an assistant cruise director, which means that I work alongside the cruise director, helping them to be the face of the ship, the person that everybody wants to be friends with, the person who is seen at all of the parties with the captain, with all of the guests who have travelled very frequently. And at the moment, I am just below that person. So I would love to get the promotion to be a cruise director where I can slot into that role. What would I say to someone interested in working on cruise ships? Go for it. It will be the best decision you ever make in your entire life. Even if it is something that you only envisage doing for a year, 2 years, just so that you can see the world, I cannot recommend it enough.